Welcome, y'all. It's Wes with DIY Food Plot Pro. Thank you so much for joining us. Today's episode, we're talking about the latest and greatest food plot that's hitting YouTube and is taking over. I've had a ton of my consulting clients reach out asking about this certain food plot that is really getting pushed pretty hard right now. So I wanted to make a video kind of discussing this food plot, what I think of it, what are my experiences with it, and what can we learn about this plot. So I think a lot of this falls back to 2023 when we had an overabundance of white oak acorns, mostly all the way across the country. I know there were some pockets that did not, but for the most part, that was a heavy masting year, and we were just absolutely overrun with white oak acorns. None of the plots were getting ate that year. It didn't matter what you had. It didn't matter if you had corn, soybeans, brassica, and annual clover, and cereal rye plot. It didn't matter what you had. The deer had a preferred food source in very large quantities, and they were not hitting anything other than those white oak acorns. They were bedding down right on top of the acorns, standing up, eating. Very difficult to hunt, and hunter success was very, very tough that year in 2023. So what happened was we had a lot of food plotters, especially a lot of the big YouTubers, decided that, well, my plots really didn't hold the deer that I wanted to this year, and they abandoned ship from the plots they have grown and had successful hunts over for years and years and years, and they started trying new things. There's nothing wrong with that by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not saying that there is, but there was a large push towards another food plot that many of us are familiar with, but not a ton of people had used on their land. Let me fast forward just a little bit. During this winter on the consulting trail, I went from farms all over Louisiana, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, Kentucky, Tennessee, Illinois, Ohio, New York, West Virginia. I mean, you name it, we pretty much covered it. There was one plot that I saw more than any other plot on the farm, and it was this plot, right? So I got a tremendous amount of data from looking at these farms. I already knew my opinion on this plot because we have raised it before. I got a tremendous amount of data just by going to these folks' farms and simply looking and see how these deer are utilizing this across the entire United States. And it is something that does change. Not gonna lie about that at all. This channel is all about knowledge, and we're trying to spread knowledge to food plotters to help better their odds of killing mature bucks and holding more deer on their property. So I don't care either way. If this is what you want to plant, I'm happy for you. I'm just simply sharing my opinion from what I've seen across literally tens of thousands of acres this winter. So if you haven't figured it out yet, the plot that I'm talking about is Milo. And Milo has really taken storm here in the last year or two. It's part of that release system. That's where I saw it the most, as folks that were using it as a part of the summer release and then the fall release. They obviously grew that during the summertime, and a lot of it was still standing. I also saw a lot of standalone Milo plots that were just planted just because this is the plot that I think would do best in this area. So what are some pros of a Milo-based food plot program? The biggest pro of it, no question about it, is the deer will not eat it in the summertime. So we all know if we've raised soybeans or corn, cowpeas, lab, the list goes on and on. Any highly preferred food source is subject to overbrowsing. This is not a highly preferred food source in the summertime. So the deer are not going to really eat it at all. So that's something that's really grabbing onto folks because they've tried soybeans in the past, they've tried corn in the past, and they can't have a successful plot, maybe because of high deer densities or because of smaller plots. This is something that really reaches out and calls to those folks because they can raise a successful plot. Another pro of Milo is it does well under dry conditions, right? So what does that mean across the country? When I do these consultations, one of the very first things that I look at, the nuts and the bolts of this entire program, is how much yearly rainfall do you get during the growing season? That eliminates or gives us options depending on where your land falls on that end of the spectrum. There are 100% areas in the country that do not receive adequate rainfall during the growing season on an average year. But I'll say this, out of all the farms that I did this year, which is several, there was only one farm that fell below 20 inches per year during the growing season. One farm. So if we can have 20 inches during the growing season, we can pretty much raise whatever crop that we want to raise. So that's a really kind of a good gold standard to look at when we're looking at these food plots. What do we try to plant? As you look at that yearly rainfall total and you see how much that rainfall total is for your area. Milo does not need the moisture that corn does. Much more drought tolerant than something like corn is. Okay, so that's kind of another thing that Milo has going for it, is it's very drought tolerant, and that screams at a lot of food plotters because they think they don't have the moisture to raise certain crops. The third thing it does is it requires less fertilizer. When you're putting a corn crop, depending on what you're going to try to produce, we're looking at about 1.2 pounds of nitrogen per bushel produced. That's another thing that I do on the consultations, is I go through and I look at your soil and I tell you what your expected yields are going to be for that area. So we know how much nitrogen to put on that food plot based upon your soil types and what the potential yield is. Milo needs much less fertilizer than what corn. It still does need nitrogen, but it doesn't need anywhere near the amount of nitrogen that, say, a corn food plot's going to take. Those are some of the pros that Milo offers, right? I mean, those are some three big ones. You know, save money on fertilizer, the deer don't eat it. That really appeals to us as food plotters when we can save money and we pretty much know we're going to have a successful crop because it's so drought tolerant. So what is the main con? And it really is just one con in the Milo that I've seen over time with it, and it's not preferred. That's the only issue with Milo, is it's just not as preferred as a lot of the other food plots. Even something, I would rather have cereal grains on my property, and we all know how cheap and easy cereal grains are, than have this entire field planted in Milo. All the food plots that I saw that were planted in Milo this year, I could go up to every single one of them, and grab the head and rub it, thrash it, and there was still seeds in the top. Every single one that I saw. I think it's getting oversold as a food plot system, with folks thinking that it's a little bit more preferred than what it really is. When you go up to a corn food plot and you can see the deer have just been wiping it out, and you go and you see these stalks are on the ground and the cobs are ate, and the soybeans, you know, it just looks like a skinny tree. There's nothing left. There's no pods left. And you can really start to make some conclusions really quick. What are the most preferred food sources and what are not? In my opinion, from what I've seen, Milo is just not as preferred as a lot of the other plots. It just doesn't have that attraction in the time frame that we're looking for. Now, I am 100% confident that when the deer get into late February, very little to eat on the farms, I am 100% sure that they will eat Milo. They will eat anything that time of the year once the preferred food sources are gone. But what I want to do on my farms is try to have the most preferred food sources during the hunting season. And then I'm also going to have those late season plots like this one. This is a phenomenal plot, but its peak is going to be in January and February. That's when deer are going to use this plot the most. That's not saying they're not going to use it during the fall, but this is when this is going to peak out, this plot right here. My website is www.diyfoodplotpro.com. You can go there, you can click on all my products. We've got some exciting things coming for 2025. That we're going to add to the website. So I'm really excited about sharing those with you guys, and hopefully y'all will continue to support the channel. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Y'all smash that like and subscribe button.